Mary was born in darkness, her world painted only in the stark contrasts of black and white. She had never seen color, not even the faintest hue. Scientists ensured that her existence remained a controlled experiment, an inhumane study designed to answer a question that philosophers had debated for centuries. Can knowledge exist without experience? The experiment was inspired by the thought experiment known as Mary's Room, a philosophical argument questioning whether understanding something intellectually could ever equate to experiencing it firsthand. But unlike the theoretical debate, this experiment was real. And unlike the hypothetical Mary, this one was flesh and blood, a child robbed of choice. From the moment she took her first breath, her life was confined to a windowless, padded cell, white walls enclosing her like the pages of the books she read. Her existence was governed by a rigorous set of rules: no mirrors, no reflective surfaces, no exposure to any color beyond black and white. Even the food she ate was devoid of any vibrant shades. Grayish gruel, blackened bread, tasteless sustenance meant to nourish the body but starved the senses. Her only human contact came in the form of Nanny, a silent figure clad entirely in black, whose visits were brief and void of warmth. When Nanny entered, Mary was required to wear a blindfold. If she disobeyed, the shock collar around her neck would deliver a searing jolt of electricity, a lesson she only needed to learn once. Mary did not resist. She could not. How could she rebel against a prison when she had no concept of freedom? How could she mourn what she had never known? To her, the world was exactly as it was supposed to be: monochrome, structured, confined, until the day everything changed. Her 18th birthday arrived with little ceremony, no celebration, no cake, just a voice crackling over the overhead speaker. Dr. Robson, the lead scientist overseeing the experiment. "Happy birthday." Mary sat up in her cot, her thin frame barely making an impression on the mattress. Her voice was quiet, hesitant. "Thank you. Will there be cake this year?" Dr. Robson chuckled, though it lacked any real amusement. "No, Mary. Today we celebrate differently. Today you leave the room." Her breath hitched. She had read about this moment. It was always meant to happen. The book she had been given described colors in meticulous detail, using every possible word to encapsulate the experience of sight beyond grayscale. She knew about red, blue, green, but she had never seen them. And now the door creaked open, revealing Nanny standing on the threshold. But something was different. Nanny, the ever-shadowed figure, was no longer cloaked in black. She wore a red dress. The color struck Mary like a physical force, her hands trembling as she stared at it, wide-eyed and unblinking. It was just as the books described: bold, passionate, a color that seemed to pulse with life. And yet, something was wrong. Mary's gaze shifted. Her breathing became shallow. It was something else. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. "I knew it." Dr. Robson's voice crackled through the speaker. "Tell us what you see, Mary. Describe it." She ignored him. Her eyes were locked onto Nanny's dress, her expression shifting from awe to something else. Fear. There's another color. A pause, then confusion. "What do you mean?" Mary's hand trembled as she lifted it, pointing at Nanny's abdomen. "Right there. It's moving." Dr. Robson sighed, impatience creeping into his tone. "Mary, focus. You are seeing red for the first time. There is no other color." Mary shook her head violently, her entire body recoiled as if trying to shrink away from something unseen. No, it's there. It's real. It's not in the books. You didn't tell me about this." Nanny took a step back, unnerved. "Mary, I don't understand." "It's inside you," Mary whispered. Her eyes flicked up to Nanny's face, studying it. "Oh, God. I'm sorry." The room fell deathly silent. Dr. Robson cleared his throat. "Mary, you're imagining things. The transition is overwhelming, we understand that, but..." "No," she screamed, slamming herself against the padded wall. "Why don't you see it? It's shifting, moving. It's alive." Nanny's breath quickened. "Dr. Robson, I think..." Mary's scream cut through the room, an ear-piercing wail of pure terror. "It's looking at me." And then Nanny staggered. Her hands clutched at her abdomen, her body convulsing. Her breath came in sharp, ragged gasps. Her fingers clawed at the red fabric of her dress as if trying to rip it away, but something else moved beneath it. The cameras flickered, the footage distorted. Dr. Robson's voice returned, laced with something that almost resembled fear. "Nanny? Report." Nanny turned to the camera. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead, her lips stretched impossibly wide, her jaw unhinging as something writhed beneath her skin, pressing outward as if desperate to break free. Mary's sobs filled the room. "I saw it. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. I know now." And then the screen cut to black. The experiment was over. But Mary had learned something that no book could teach her. Not all colors belong in this world. A new neighbor moved in next door. The only problem? Everyone swears he's lived here for years. It started at the community potluck. Laughter echoed around the rec room as neighbors passed around homemade dishes and cheap beer. The usual crowd was there. Jess, our building manager, cracking jokes with her son. Dee Dee, the life of the party, lugging in a fresh 24-pack from the local brewery. And Marcelo, always up for a round of darts. Everything felt normal. Except for him. He was tall, unnaturally tall, maybe 6.5, nearly 7 feet. Pale, with a sharp jawline and slicked back dark hair. He had the look of someone from Eastern Europe, but his features were just off. His name was Tony, at least that's what they called him. I'd never seen him before, not once, and yet the moment he walked in, he was greeted like an old friend. "Tony, my man, you still fixing things around here?" someone shouted. Dee Dee handed him the first beer of the night, a privilege I'd never received, even after 10 years of living here. Then I saw Jess challenge him to a game of darts with her son. They played like experts, laughing at inside jokes that made no sense to me. I pulled Dee Dee aside. "Who is that guy?" She gave me a weird look. "What do you mean?" "That's Tony. You know Tony." "No," Dee Dee furrowed her brows. He's lived here forever. Remember his Christmas cake, the 4-layer one with the homemade icing?" I shook my head. She scoffed. "Wow, man, you must be wasted already." Confused, I asked around. "Tony, the nicest guy, gave $100 for my daughter's bat mitzvah. Yeah, he's super handy. He fixed my sink last summer. I still remember the time he carried me home after I twisted my ankle. Dude strong as hell. Every single person swore Tony had always been here, but he hadn't. I knew every tenant in this building. I knew their schedules, their apartments, their routines. There was no Tony. Something was very, very wrong. I took a deep breath, grabbed a beer, and walked straight up to him. "Hey, pal. Nice to meet you. I'm Ignatius." Pony blinked, then smirked. "Nice to meet you, Iggy. I'm Anthony. Is this a role play?"